Groovy, gory, and groundbreaking, The Evil Dead remains one of the most iconic horror films in cinematic history. But how did this low-budget indie project transform into the cult phenomenon that it is? Today we're diving into the story of Starting out as childhood friends, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell had big dreams but no budget. They made Super 8 movies together, where they would mess around and create comedy movies which included Clockwork and It's Murder. During the filming of a suspenseful scene for It's Murder, it inspired them to approach careers in the horror genre. After researching horror movies at the local drive-in movie theatre, Raimi was set on directing a horror movie as his first directorial debut. Shooting a proof-of-concept short film, Raimi would use this to show proposed financiers, and then use those funds to make a full-length movie. The short film was called Within the Woods, which was produced on only $1,600. After showing Within the Woods to potential backers, and after speaking with a lawyer friend, Phil Giles, he gave advice on how to produce movies. With this in his mind, Raimi and Campbell went about showing the short film to potential backers, and also asking, and sometimes even begging, their family members for money to help out. They were able to raise $375,000. Now armed with enough money in his pockets to make what was then titled Book of the Dead, inspired by Raimi's love of the works of H.P. Lovecraft, the movie was supposed to be a higher production remake of Within the Woods. For the ones who haven't seen The Evil Dead, here is a quick plot recap. 5 friends go into the woods to have a fun night at a cabin. During their party, they find an older book, the Necronomicon, whose text reawakens the dead when it's read aloud. The friends unleash a flood of evil and must fight to survive the night. As each one of his friends become possessed, Ash Williams must fight for his life if he is to make it to dawn. Filming The Evil Dead was as grueling as the story that unfolded on screen. Shot in the winter of 1979 in a remote cabin in Tennessee, the production was a test of endurance for everyone involved. The cast and crew worked under harsh conditions, with freezing temperatures and limited resources. Raimi, known for his inventive techniques, pushed the boundaries of low-budget filmmaking. With homemade rigs to use for the dynamic camera work, Raimi's creativity was the driving force behind the film's unique visual style. Sam Raimi also enjoyed torturing his actors. He believed in order to capture the pain and anger that the characters were experiencing on screen, Raimi wanted it to seem genuine. So Raimi had gone on record as saying, if everyone was in extreme pain and misery, that would translate well onto the screen. If any of the cast got injured during the shoot, Raimi and producer Rob Tapert would poke them in their injuries to get the required result. The shoot was a nightmare due to the remote location of the cabin, which several crew members were injured, and it was nigh on impossible to secure medical assistance for them. During pre-production, and due to the remote location, 13 crew members had to stay at the cabin, leaving several people sleeping in the same room. The living conditions were notoriously difficult, with several arguments often breaking out between crew members. Filming finished on January 23rd, 1980. Raimi stayed back at the cabin along with Campbell as they went over the footage that was already shot. They saw that reshoots were needed to be done, so 4 days of reshoots were penciled in. The final shot that was filmed is when Ash has the guts thrown into his face, which was filmed in the basement of the cabin. The Evil Dead premiered on October 15th, 1981 at the Redford Theatre in Detroit. Raimi decided to promote the movie like William Castle used to do, and he used gimmicks. This was done so to have the movie premiere stand out as much as he possibly could make it. There were ambulances parked outside and also sick bags given to build up as much buzz and atmosphere as possible. It worked. There were over 1,000 people who turned up for the movie, way beyond the cast and crew's expectations. Once the movie was shown, the audience loved it so much they couldn't stop raving about it. This gave Raimi and his team another idea: to tour the movie and to build hype. Once this was done, Raimi showed the movie to anyone who would see it. One of these people were Irvin Shapiro, the man who distributed Night of the Living Dead and other horror movies. Shapiro enjoyed the movie and advised Ramoy to change the name though, as Book of the Dead sounded boring. Brainstorming many ideas for names, The Evil Dead was chosen as it was the least worst title that they came up with. The movie was screened at the 1982 Cannes Film Festival. This was done due to Shapiro being one of the founders of the film festival. It was here the horror legend Stephen King saw the movie and gave it a glowing review, with the following quote being used on the movie posters ever since: "The most ferociously original film of the year." The Evil Dead had its nationwide release in April of 1983, 3 years after filming had finished, with New Line Cinema agreeing to distribute it domestically in the US. Along with this, New Line Cinema wrote a large check to pay off all the investors, and they released The Evil Dead in cinemas and also on VHS at the exact same time. The movie performed beyond any expectations and was a global smash hit, with a worldwide total of $29.4 million. However, The Evil Dead ran into censorship issues all over the world. The movie was violent, but with over-the-top gore, which made it comical. But the censors didn't see it this way. The movie became one of the most notorious splatter movies of its day. Here in the UK, the movie was trimmed by 49 seconds before it was even granted a certificate, which was the dreaded X rating. In 1984, it was on the list of video nasties and was banned on home video. 6 years later, in 1990, a further 66 seconds was added to the previous 49 seconds, so it could be released as an 18 rating on home video. In 2000, the movie was finally released uncut here in the UK, much to the delight of horror fans. The biggest problem for the censors was the infamous tree scene, which Ash's sister Cheryl is attacked by a tree. If you've seen the movie, you know what we're talking about, and Sam Raimi has even given his thoughts on the scene in a past interview. I think it was unnecessary, gratuitous, and a little too brutal. My goal is not to offend people, it is to entertain, thrill, scare, make them laugh, but not to offend them. I think my judgment was a little wrong at the time. The Evil Dead has left one of the biggest marks in horror, from the wave of cabin in the woods types of movies to the creativity that comes from having no budget. These types of movies became the go-to for up-and-coming filmmakers, but who had no money to spend on them. An example of the creativity that The Evil Dead has was that during filming, several elaborate low-budget rigs had to be built, since the crew could not afford a camera dolly. One involved the Vasocam, which relied on a mounted camera that was slid down long wooden platforms to create a more fluid sense of motion. Another trick that was used to emulate the state-of-the-art Steadicam at the time was the creation of the shaky cam. This involved mounting the camera to a piece of wood and 2 operators who would run around the swamp. But the effect worked on screen. It gave the sense of the evil that comes from the Necronomicon. Over the last 4 decades, The Evil Dead has spawned into a global hit franchise. This includes sequels, legacy sequels, a TV series, numerous video games, action figures, and even a stage musical. And also a very successful comic where it pitted Ash against Jason and Freddy Krueger. More than 40 years after its release, The Evil Dead remains a testament to what passion and creativity can achieve on a shoestring budget. Sam Raimi and his team prove that even the scariest tales can have a sense of humour, and that some stories, no matter how bloody, are worth telling again and again. The entire Evil Dead franchise is one of my all-time favourites, and it deserves to be in the Horror Hall of Fame. Thanks for watching, Deadheads. Are you a fan or do you hate The Evil Dead? Let us know down below. Until next time, stay critical, stay scared.